Hi, everybody. Um, Welcome to the first installment of the iDrive webinars. This is the first of what we hope is many. I'm Alex Frere. I'm going to be hosting today. I'm going to be walking us through our topic today on shipping cart optimization. So let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about me. Like I said, my name is Alex Frere. My role here at iDrive is that I am a customer success manager. A little bit about my role, my responsibilities. I like to say that there are two parts. The first is more, practical and support geared. So things like tracking claims, billing discrepancies, those kind of support roles. And then the more fun part of my job is the logistics and advising. So I get to talk to brands about shipping strategy, things like diversifying carrier mixes, international shipping, hazmat shipping, insurance, and then what we're going to be talking today about how to leverage your cart to increase conversions and grow your business. So we are going to be taking a look at a case study today. This is an actual iDrive customer, and they've been so gracious to let us use some of their information. This is what their shopping cart looked like before optimization, before we made any changes. So taking a look at the screenshot here, you can see that they have two options. They use carrier branded naming conventions, right? Ground Advantage, Priority Mail. And then they use a fixed delivery window, right? So 5 business days, 2 business days. We'll come back to this, but these are just things to keep in mind as we walk through the process and a little bit about cart optimization. And then I also included some extra examples just so you can see a little bit about some of the things we see when we look at carts to optimize them. So here on the left, you can see this one just has one option, or what I would say is probably too few options. It uses just carrier branding again, and it has a fixed delivery date. You can see it says Saturday, October 26th. So I would consider this to have too few options. And then this one on the right, this one is a little bit complicated. It uses a mix of like standard shipping, simple terms, and carrier language like Priority Mail, UPS. It's a little bit clunky at the bottom, a lot of words. It takes a lot to decipher. You have to focus to really understand what it's saying. So before we jump in to everything, let's talk about why cart abandonment and cart optimization is an important thing to focus on in the first place. Cart abandonment is basically wasted acquisition spend, right? Brands spend a lot of money on their marketing and their branding to get people to their website, to get people to click add to cart, and eventually make it all the way to the checkout. And when people abandon their cart, this is wasting your acquisition spend. All of that work you've put in goes to waste. And unfortunately, approximately 70% of shoppers abandon their carts. And some key statistics on why that is, it has a lot to do with shipping. So 48% abandon their carts due to extra costs, such as unexpected shipping costs. 22% abandon their carts because shipping takes too long. And about 17% abandon carts because of a complicated checkout process, right? Kind of like that one that we saw in the example where it's a little bit clunky, hard to understand. And this ties directly into your conversions, right? As we said, acquisition spend is half the battle, getting people to your website. But 50% of your customer checkout or your customer experience happens from checkout to delivery. And unfortunately, this means a lot of it falls in the carrier's hands. It's not even with the brand itself, but it reflects on the brand. At the end of the day, the customer, looks to the person that they bought from and reflects on their experience. So it's really important that we pay attention to our checkout because it is one of the ways we can mitigate the experience that the carrier gives to our customers, right? And benefits of a positive customer experience at checkout obviously increases your conversions, right? Helps with cart abandonment. The better a delivery experience, the more on time it is. It also reduces returns. And then our end goal with every customer experience is to create a lifetime customer, build loyalty and trust, and have them return again to purchase. So here at iDrive, we approach shipping carts with 3 key strategies. And this is based completely off of your brand and your customer base. So the first would be using shipping as a revenue stream. This is where you make money on your shipping fees. I see this a lot with smaller brands where margins are tight. You can't afford to subsidize costs for your customers. I've seen where people will add a flat markup so that it covers their pick and pack because that's how tight margins are. And shipping is one of the ways you can do that. The second strategy is shipping as a competitive requirement. This is, matching that Amazon brand where it's next day and free. We've seen this a lot post-COVID that this is what consumers are expecting, and it's very hard to match. I see this a lot with bigger brands who can afford to eat the cost of their shipping, and they just want to create that best possible customer experience. And then the third strategy is shipping as a necessity. This is kind of where most people fall, right? This is the middle ground. It's where you work to drive your costs down, but still maintain a positive customer experience. You accept it as a necessary expense. And not every brand is the same. So here at iDrive, we evaluate where a brand is and help them decide which shipping route to take when we look at their cart. So the 4 keys to a great cart, the things that we address once we decide the shipping strategy we want to take, right, are 3 clear shipping options, simple naming conventions, strategic pricing, and realistic delivery windows. And don't worry, we're going to break each of these down and talk about why they're important. So the first key here, as I said, is 3 clear shipping options. 3 is statistically optimal, it's concise and digestible to consumer, and fosters customer satisfaction. This point is directly tied into consumer psychology. And so there's a couple principles that I want to address to kind of drive home why 3 is this optimal number and why we recommend it when putting together carts. So the first is the choice overload effect. This is when you become overwhelmed when presented with a large number of choices. We live in a society where we think that, the more options, unlimited options is the best. But psychology studies actually show that too many options results in lower satisfaction with the end decision. And when the goal is to minimize pain points, you want to make people think less at checkout. And then on the flip side, we can talk about the principle of single choice aversion. This is when individuals are unwilling to choose an attractive option without something to compare it to. People like to feel in control. You can claim to have the best deal out there, but without a comparison, people will hesitate. And again, like I said, hesitation leads to less conversion. And then that brings me to my last point, which kind of drives home why 3 is best over unlimited or one choice. The decoy effect. This is where one feels more strongly about an option when there are 3 choices over 2 choices. Our human brains think in low, medium, high, slow, moderate, fast, kind of that Goldilocks approach. This one's too cold, this one's too hot, this one's just right. Even if somebody wasn't going to choose one of the other 2 options anyways, it still leads to higher satisfaction because of that sense of control. So this is why I would recommend 3 clear options at your checkout. The second principle is simple naming conventions. The reason for this is that it easily indicates speed of delivery to customers at first glance, and it allows for flexibility in shipping services used. So obviously I have a recommendation of what those naming conventions should be, and I would say they are economy, ground, expedited, and express. A couple reasons for this. One, the alliteration between economy, expedited, express is aesthetically appealing, right? We always want to make it clear and appealing to our customers. This also not explicitly indicates the speed of delivery. So, I might sound repetitive, and that's the point. We want to make things so clear that they don't have to think. And then the third reason for this is it pushes customers to the middle lane. What I mean by this is economy, ground, we kind of want that to sound slow. I know it sounds slow. We kind of want that, right? This is the slowest service that a customer is going to get, right? So it's the lowest level of experience. Express, that's going to be kind of expensive. They're going to feel that when they pay for it. But expedited, they're going to pay a moderate price and they're going to get the better delivery experience, right? Typically, this would be like a 3-day service. And if they live close, it might even be shorter than that. So this is always where we want the customer to be in that middle lane. Again, less thinking is minimizing pain points. And then the last thing I want to touch on with simple naming conventions is that the carrier is not typically relevant to the consumer. We care about it, but 99% of the time your customer doesn't know what it means and they don't really care. Using these naming conventions also allows you to be flexible on the back end as the market changes. So if at one point one carrier is cheaper and meets that delivery window, you can use that and plug it in through your warehouse. And if the market changes, it's easy to change without your customers even knowing. And as you get the cheaper prices, you can either keep that for your bottom line, or you can push more aggressive shipping prices or savings to your customer. So our third key to a great cart is strategic pricing. Strategic pricing is important because this, again, differentiates your service levels and it positions your shipping lanes to be more palpable to a variety of consumers. So this is going to tie directly back into those last two slides we talked about, where you want to look palpable to your customers. Having a comparison between prices is really important. Even if they weren't going to choose it, it makes them feel more justified in their decisions. And then again, it delineates service, speed of delivery, tiers of service from least premium to most premium. And so the way I would recommend pricing out these lanes is with economy ground, this should always be your most competitive lane. It should be your cheapest service that you can use without compromising your desired customer experience or costing your bottom line. So this is where you really strive to subsidize or cut down prices here. Your expedited lane, as we said, this is where you always want to push people. Part of this reason also comes down to pricing. Typically, the pricing is not far from a ground service and can be marked up slightly to look more premium, creating room for margin. So what I mean by this is, for example's sake, let's say that your ground service costs you $4.50, your expedited service, whatever you're using, costs you $5. But you're not going to put a 50-cent difference on your checkout, right? You can call the first one $4.99 and the second one $6.99. So you're making a little over $1 in margin to cover maybe some of those areas that you subsidize. And, the more people you push to that expedited lane, the more it stacks up. And then your final lane would be express. I would not recommend subsidizing this. The difference between, one customer to the next could be dollars, not cents, right? These are your more expensive services, like a 2-day. But these are typically used by consumers who are in need of something fast, so they're willing to pay full price. It's that boyfriend who forgot that his girlfriend's birthday is this weekend and he needs it and he doesn't care. So I would never recommend subsidizing these costs, but having it available for those few people who need it is important. And then it also serves as a comparison tool for people who are going to choose your economy lane. And then the fourth and final key is realistic delivery windows. You want to set proper expectations up front. This makes it so that you are under-promising and over-delivering for your customers, right? So with the speed of delivery, you want to give them those options, but you also want to set the proper expectation, because somebody who receives something late is going to be more upset than if you set the delivery window back a little bit, right? So a couple points on this. I would always recommend utilizing business days in your description. Part of this is because the carriers function on business days, so why wouldn't you? This communicates the right expectation. The second would be that I would build in a buffer for fulfillment time. The average person doesn't understand pick and pack time. They don't care that they ordered after the pickup truck came. The clock starts ticking the second that they hit purchase. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. The first would be you could add a 1 to 2 day buffer for your display time in transit. So say you're using a 3-day service, call it 4 to 6 days on your website. It allows the warehouse time to pick and pack. And then with that extra buffer on the end, if there's any delays, you're still within the window. And if it gets there early, then the customer is elated. And then the second way to go about it, if you feel that your customer base would be deterred by that long of a window, whatever it is, you can always use educational text to inform the buyer of extra fulfillment time. Sometimes this doesn't always register, but it really is up to the brand on how you decide to go about it based on your customer base, what they're expecting, the experience that they are looking to have with you. So regardless of how you go about it, this is what I would recommend because it covers your business at the end of the day and ensures a positive customer experience. And so after we've gone over those keys, here are some examples that utilize those principles. You can see on the left, use case number 1 here. It has your suggested language, economy, expedited, express. It's appealing and understandable. The price jumps make sense. And it estimates delivery with business days, and they opted to use educational text here to inform about fulfillment times. So, like I said, I'm going to sound repetitive, but everything delineates level of service, speed of delivery, clear, not a lot of thinking, you know. So this is what I would call a golden model for the principles that we just went over. And then turning your attention to use case number 2, I included this for a very specific reason. So you can see here that this uses a mix of, the carrier agnostic simple language as well as the UPS branded language. They also used the approach of a delivery window with a built-in buffer for fulfillment. The reason I bring this up is because the model on the left is a great base. It uses those psychology principles to increase conversions. But the customer on the right here had some consumers who could only receive UPS, and they received some feedback about that. So they decided to include a UPS branded language for those customers to accommodate them. They didn't eliminate all of the principles, they utilized them and then added to it and tweaked it. So my point here is it's not one size fits all, but it's always a good starting point, and then you can tweak it as you go based on your customer base and your needs. So now that we've gone over those keys and we talk a little bit about how we get to the optimization process to have a clean cart and how we decide, what to charge. So our approach takes into consideration an individual shipping profile for a brand, things like weights, zones, box size, if that's something that is applicable. And then we also look at the carrier performances. We want to see how the carriers are performing and what they are giving to us for SLAs. And then we want to look at your shipping costs, the individual shipping costs for each brand. And this is how we go about it. So this dashboard here is going to be part of our new launch for iDrive tech at the start of the year. I used to do this out of spreadsheets. So this is going to be so much faster and so wonderful. But I just wanted to walk us through a little bit how this works. So here you can see the individual shipping profile for a brand. It has the shipping volume by weights and by zone. The awesome thing about this is that we mimicked the Shopify methodology so that you could take exactly what's on this dashboard and put it side by side with your Shopify to plug things in at the end of the day. So if you're familiar with Shopify, you know that you can put in rates based on the weight of the products, right? Because obviously as the weight of your products go up, so does the price. So looking at this example here, I would say that they have a lot of volume under a pound, a little bit at 1, a decent amount of volume at 2 pounds, and a little bit sprinkled 3 and above. So if I was to create weight breaks in my Shopify, I would do a rate for under a pound, a rate for 1 to 2 pounds, and a rate for 3 pounds and up to catch anything that would, for some reason, go over. So once we have those weight breaks decided, we'd move on to the optimization process, which is, as you scroll lower on the dashboard here, you can see that we have the suggested lanes, the economy, ground, expedited, and not visible here, but the express lanes. So you can take those weight breaks that we talked about on the top and plug them in, right? So you can see there's an under a pound, a 1 to 2 pound, and a 3 pound plus rate. Then at the top on the right, you can see there's a service level drop down. This is where you can decide what service levels you would like to use, right? So for economy ground, I would choose, the ground services. Let's say USPS Ground Advantage, DHL Expedited, anything that has similar delivery windows. Then once those are selected, it will pull your costs from your invoicing and show the average cost you've been paying for those weight breaks and the highest cost you've been paying for your weight breaks. And then if you look in the proposed column, it will take the highest you've been charged and make it a clean 99, right? But the awesome thing about this is that those fields are editable. So once you see your average and your highest cost, you can take a look at those proposed and then decide what you would like to charge for each weight break. Those will then be reflected in your checkout preview on the right. So you can see it says economy ground, $6.99. And there's a little drop down that will show each weight break up there at the top. One at a time. So it's showing currently the under a pound cart that you're putting together. You can see the expedited $8.99 is there. So once you've decided for each weight break what you'd like your pricing to be, you can take a look at the transit time. It will pull the average transit time for the service level selected. It'll show you the highest or the longest that it has taken, and then you can decide on a window. So here for economy ground, they decided on 7 to 10 business days, expedited 4 to 6, express 2 to 3. Notice how they're not overlapping also. That's important to, again, delineate service. So once you've decided on all that pricing, you like your checkout preview, you can go ahead and export it. And like I said, we followed Shopify methodology, so you can put this side by side with your Shopify and input it. It also comes with below you can see the heading that says shopping cart shipping option on the right. It will show the mappings that you decided for your service levels. So this can go directly to your warehouse, and they can know that anything that comes in with a tag that says economy ground from your Shopify should be rate shopped with ground advantage, DHL expedited, and it'll be repeated for all of your lanes. So it handles giving the mapping to your warehouse as well as the input for your Shopify. Super awesome. But this is the process that we follow to get accurate shipping costs, accurate transit times, and make sure it looks clean and is visibly appealing as well. So like I said, we were going to take a look at this case study. Here is the summary before optimization, right? We had those two options, fixed fixed delivery windows here. And here is the after. They have those clean economy, expedite, express lanes. They opted for educational text, clear jumps. And then we wanted to put some data behind what we've been talking about today. Again, this customer has been super gracious to allow us to have access to some of their Shopify data. You can see that this top graph is from July of this year. This was about 1 month before we went into their Shopify and optimized it, changed it as you saw on the previous slide. This is their overall conversion trend line. So the conversion rate of 2.72 that you see on the right, that is based on their overall traffic. So that has to do with their marketing, branding, getting people to the website and ultimately converting. But we wanted to zero in on how many people reached checkout and then converted or clicked purchase, right? So the percentage of people who clicked purchase after reaching checkout is 79.9% in July. And then taking a look at the bottom graph, you can see our baseline of July on the bottom there, and then that top darker line is from October. So this is about 2 months after we made those changes. We wanted to see how they were faring, and the overall conversion rate is up to 3.95%, but zeroing in on just checkout conversions, it's up to 81.6%. And that doesn't sound a lot, 79.9 to 81.6%, but this equates to about a 76 order increase. So because of the changes they've made in their Shopify, directly correlated, because we're looking at just how many reached checkout to sessions converted, this has increased their order count by 76 orders. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for attending our webinar. If you guys want to know any more, please feel free to visit our website or reach out to us at iDrive Logistics. We do have a little bit of time for a Q&A, so I'm going to go ahead and check out the chat and see what kind of questions we have. Feel free to put some questions in there as well if you have any. Okay, the first question that we have is does that iDrive platform automatically use the cheapest rate per service level available? So when it comes to using the platform for cheapest rates, it'll pull in the exact from your invoice data, exactly what you've been paying. So if you're including ground advantage and DHL in there together, it will take the average cost of those service levels of what you're actually paying. And then same for the highest rate. So choosing the cheapest rate with that is up to you. You can take a look at each service individually to decide which one is giving you the cheaper rate for those weights. Okay, let's see. Our next question is, how do you decide what to subsidize for customers? I believe this is meaning in terms of the 3 lanes, right? And it kind of goes hand in hand with your free shipping, right? So that economy lane is the only one that I would recommend subsidizing, right? If you're finding that shipping costs are really stopping people from clicking purchase, then I would take maybe 50 cents, $1 off of your lowest lane. But that is the only one that I would ever subsidize, right? Because like we talked about, the difference in subsidizing your economy lane versus like your express lane is like $1 versus like maybe $5. So I would always recommend doing it on that lowest lane, and I wouldn't subsidize the other costs. Another approach that I've seen though is that if you were to offer free shipping, say that that everything over 3 pounds is going to be free shipping. You can make an over 3 pound rate that subsidizes the other costs for expedited and express. So that means that they're already getting free shipping, right, with that over 3 pounds of product. But if they were to choose a faster service lane and you're collecting maybe $3 instead of $6, then you're losing $3 less, right? So you can always cut those costs in conjunction with your free shipping to maybe encourage people to choose a faster lane, have a better experience, and then you're making a little bit to cover some of their shipping costs. Let's see, what's our next question? Where should we place free shipping options in the order of the cart? So this, like I said, in that first lane, and the way I would determine a free shipping threshold or when to offer free shipping, that's more so a question that I see a lot, is based on your AOV, your average order value. So if your average order value is 2 items and you want to make it 3, you would put your shipping threshold at a point where they would have to add a 3rd item in order to reach your threshold. So say those 2 items is $25, your free shipping threshold would be $30. So they have to add a 3rd item in order to get that free shipping. So this will increase your AOV, as well as the extra margin that you make on that shipment should equate to hopefully cover your shipping costs on that. And then this question says, what percentage of customers select different shipping speeds after you optimize a shipping cart? I would say that the economy lane, you're still going to see that most people choose your economy lane, even if you have 3 lanes. Most people want it cheap. But like I said, having the other lanes reinforces that they're okay with their decision choosing that slowest, cheapest lane. So I would say you see between 80 and 90% in the economy lane. That expedited, I've seen anywhere from 7 to 20%. Again, depends on your customer base and what they're looking for and what your product is, how fast they need it. And then that express, usually anywhere from 1 to 6%. I haven't seen more than that when optimizing carts, but like I said, it's for those people who need it. They have to have it, and they're just grateful that you offer it. Let's see, I think that is my last question. Thank you so much for attending, everybody, today. I hope this was insightful. Like I said, please reach out if you have any further questions, and we appreciate your time.